Hey, welcome to our 7 p.m. Christmas Eve service. My name is Andrea Smith, and I have the privilege of being here with you this evening. I know that there were lots of things that you could have done tonight, and so we are so grateful on behalf of the band and the staff and all the volunteers that you chose to spend Christmas Eve here with us. To those of you worshiping online, we extend a very special and warm welcome to you, and are glad that you are joining in as well. So tonight is a little different than a normal Sunday morning at West. At West, we exist to be real, relevant, and non-threatening as we hope to help you encounter Christ. And so one of the things that we do not do at West that perhaps you would have at a more traditional church is we do not take up an offering, like where we pass the baskets or the plates in front of you and jiggle them at you to get you to give money. In fact, we don't talk about it in the service, etc. But on Christmas Eve, we exist, as we try to do all year long, is to give ourselves away. And so it's the one worship service that we talk about giving in the service. And we are giving our offerings this year to our partner in Nebi, Uganda, Acres of Hope. Acres of Hope is something that we have been a part of for the 13 years that we have been in existence. In fact, we helped start Acres of Hope with a pastor who was already there and had bought some land and had this vision that was approved by the Ugandan government, but he needed some partners to walk alongside him, and we were lucky enough to be some of the first partners that he had. And so now, 13 years later, it is a full-fledged orphanage and school with the approval and the accreditation by the government, and thousands of children have gone through that school. They are now nourished, and they have all that they need with health care, and now graduates are coming out and being just well received in society, and it is a true success story. But there are always needs there, and they are finishing their secondary school, which for us would be high school. In Uganda, it is uncommon for you to be able to go to high school in your local community, like here at Lake Norman. Lots of the kids, they go through Acres of Hope, and then they have to go, like we would go to college to go to high school. And so he is finishing up the primary school, or secondary school, sorry. And so that's what our offering is going to tonight. You can see on the screens how to give. You can go to our website. We're going to send one email tomorrow with links of how to give. And there are also offering baskets in the back of the auditorium that you can give to after the service. And we invite you to do so. We give every dime to Acres of Hope, and we hope that you'll be a part of that. If you are new to West, you've never been here before, we recognize that we're different. We recognize and are grateful that you chose to drive by a lot of traditional churches and come here. And so we have a VIP station set up in the walkway as you enter the building. We'd love to know that you were here with us tonight. You get to choose whether you hear from us again or not. We will not inundate you with propaganda. We have a gift for you, and we'd just like to know that you're here. But again, we are so grateful. Here's what you can expect tonight if you are new to West. There's not going to be any kind of guilt trip to try to get you to have a come to Jesus moment. If someone drug you to church tonight and you had no desire whatsoever to go to church, but you did it as a favor to a friend or a family member, I want you to know that it is a safe space. It's non-threatening, and we recognize and respect whatever pathway you come to tonight to the Christmas story. We believe that whether you are a follower of Christ or not, there's always something that we can learn from the story of Jesus, and I hope that that's what you do tonight. I hope you'll learn something and leave transformed, leave a little bit changed so we can be the change that we wish to see in the world. We're going to talk about the Grinch, and we're going to talk about whether or not the Grinch is in each of us. We have a little bit of Grinch, and I want you to think about, do you know any Grinches? Clap if you know a Grinch. At the last service, no one would clap, so I don't know if they were either less honest or more holy or whatever, but I'm like, oh, come on, people, you know Grinches, you don't want to admit it. And so we're going to take a look at various clips throughout the movie, throughout the service, and then tie it into the meaning of Christmas. Again, we're really glad that you're here. Now we're going to do something fun. We hope you picked up some glow sticks out front. If you didn't, then don't worry about it. We're still going to do it anyway. But if you have a glow stick, go on and break your little glow sticks and then stand up. You're going to see on the screens the words to the songs. They're going to be colors, and wave your little glow sticks while the words appear on the screen. It's a fun song to just get you in the mood for Christmas, and then we'll get back to the message. Please stand and sing. So I asked you how many of you knew a Grinch. I'm not going to ask you to clap to this, but how many of us recognize that we have a little bit of the Grinch that lives inside of each of us? Have you seen the resting Grinch face, the propaganda that's out around that? We've all got a little bit of the Grinch. So what's that got to do with the Christmas story? Well, the Christmas story ushers in light and life. And if we are willing to own that we have a little bit of the Grinch that lives inside of us, think about if we own it and address it and then are willing to change it, what good can come? So I have some Grinch that lives inside of me. If you were living with me on Sunday night, I was accused of being the Grinch. I was a lot of anxiety and nerves and really just feeling pretty overwhelmed, and I was grumpy. And then on Monday, I was driving into work, or actually this was the previous Monday, and there was a school bus on Perth Road. And I am an impatient driver, but not if there's a school bus. I respect bus drivers. They have what I think are one of the toughest jobs ever. And so on Perth, there was a car tailgating a school bus in front of me. And so my inner Grinch came out, and I wanted to be the vigilante road warrior that confronted the car in front of me. So I've seen these signs. They're digital signs that you can put typically on the back of your car. Have you ever seen these? Typically they have hand gestures that you can put, and I really felt like that was inappropriate for Christmas Eve, that I could not show that type of hand gesture. And so this was the most appropriate picture we could find. But you can put a message on your screen that you send to the car. This one's on the rear of the car. I want one that goes on the front of my car so I can tell people what to do. And I want to tell them how to drive because, of course, my driving is perfect, right? Actually not. But I was so angry with the car that was tailgating the bus in front of me. So then I sped up, and I decided I was going to tailgate that car. And I thought that's even a worse idea, because what if everybody slammed on brakes? My Grinch came out. So the Grinch is an archetype of a part of humanity that, whether we own it or not, we've all got. There's a part of us that we can get angry, or we can become very frustrated and bitter, and if we don't address it, it grows into resentment and hostility and selfishness. We've all got some of that lives inside of us, if we own it. And if we're not careful, it can be like what happened to the Grinch, and it can grow and it can fester, and then we just become this person that's walled off from others. We build up barriers, and we isolate ourselves, just like the Grinch did. He lived on the top of this mountain all alone, and he would look out all over Whoville, and the more he saw them happy, the less happy he became. And so he grew to hate the Whos, because they had this peace and this joy. And that's how this ties in actually to the message of Christmas on this Christmas Eve. Because wherever you come to the Christmas story, and I told you don't have to believe it, but there are some lessons that we can learn from the historical narrative of the Christmas story. And most scholars, even if others don't believe in the miraculous parts of the Christmas story, scholars will say that there are historical accounts of Jesus of Nazareth. And his last name was not Christ. He was born into the universal Christ. Christ is a term that stands for the embodiment of God's love. So Jesus was actually known as Jesus of Nazareth. And he was born into the most humble way. And then he grew, and the way that he grew and the way that he lived ushered in this kingdom of love and peace. So much so that in the way that he died, it affirmed all that. So the Grinch ties into the Christmas story because there's this whole group of people called the Who's that despite what the Grinch does to them, he cannot take away their joy and their peace. So how did he become the Grinch to start with? Have you ever looked at the face of a baby if you've had the opportunity to spend time around newborns? They're just, as long as their innate needs are being met, there's just this peace about them. Think about that. Like you look at this innocent creation that has not been tainted by the world at all. And then as they grow and they encounter the difficulties of life, like they develop personalities and their personalities come out and they experience feelings and emotions. We all have that, right? Like we have feelings and emotions, and we all were infants at one point, born totally innocent and pure love. And then as we go through life, stuff happens. And hard stuff happens. I don't know where you come to this evening, to this space and this sacred time, but for some, it's been a really hard year. The loss of loved ones, the loss of jobs, the loss of financial security, the loss of relationships, isolation, loneliness, loss of physical health. There's so many different things that we can all experience in our lives that can just, if we're not careful, penetrate that joy and take that joy and that peace and that light and life away. And that's what happened to the Grinch. He made this special gift for Martha. He had the biggest crush on her, and so he went all out and he made her this gift, and they'd made fun of his facial hair, so he decided he was going to shave, and you saw what happened. He nicked his face, and so he went to school with a bag on his head and wanted to give her the gift, and then they made fun of him, so he took the bag off, and then it was even worse. Have you ever been made fun of? Doesn't feel good, does it? And you saw what happened. He got angry. He lived out his anger. And then he went away. If you watch the whole movie, it's a great movie. If you watch the whole movie, you see that later on, he even tries one more time to give it a chance because he had people like Cindy Lou Who that believed in him. But every time he risks that vulnerability and takes those steps to be a part of society, it backfires. Therapists will tell you that unprocessed pain gets projected. Unprocessed pain gets projected. And what that means in just everyday language is like when we've got stuff that happens to us that hurts us. If we're not careful, it sticks in there. And then time goes by, and unless we're really intentional about letting it go, about working through it, it just grows and it festers, and it's like an infection and it spreads. And if we're not careful, it turns us in some ways into a Grinch. That's what happened in the movie. The pain and the rejection just made him so bitter. Where have you been rejected? And where have you experienced deep pain? And are you holding on to it? That's the beautiful thing about the Christmas story, is that the historical person, Jesus of Nazareth, was born in the most weird, unique way. It was not a silent night. We sing Silent Night, but it was not silent. He was born in a cave. And then the people that society looked down on, the night shepherds, like they were the first to come and celebrate this light and life that was now in their midst. And this little baby that is born in such a unique circumstance, he grows up. And the powerful thing is, like, if you look at Scripture, you know the rest of the story. And that's what historians have written about the way that he lived. And Josephus of the 3rd century wrote about how he died. Not in the Bible, but like that historical account of the crucifixion. And it's Christmas Eve, but you can't talk about one without the other, because you see the way that he lived, even though people were mean and hateful and out to get him all of his journey, it never changed him. Now, I don't know about you, but there have been things in my life and people in my life that have hurt me, and it's so hard to let that go. Because, right, we don't want to get hurt again, and if we let it go, then we become vulnerable and all that kind of stuff. But Jesus, like, when he first started his public ministry, he went back to his hometown. And one would assume that if he went back to his hometown, that everybody would love him. They wanted to kill him first, right out of the gate. And what did he do? Like, instead of getting mad about that and bitter about that, he just said, look, hey, if there are folks that don't like you, folks that don't want to have anything to do with you and the message that you're bringing, you just wipe that off like the dust off your sandals and just go on your way. And that's exactly what he did. For the next 3 years, he loved the people that society scorned. He welcomed the people into his midst that the religious people wanted nothing to do with. And he just showed how to love. So whether you buy the whole Christmas story or not, the way that the story is depicted and the way that the story shows us this human who loved all unabashedly, it shows us like what the message is for us. So that's what happened when he started feeling. He started letting himself have his feelings. You know, for thousands of years, people have been going through life and experiencing some of the same things that we experience, periods of light and love and hope, and then periods of deep darkness. The people of Israel were no different. Those are the folks that we read about in the ancient Hebrew scriptures, what we know of as our Old Testament. The Israelites, like, they had been rescued from slavery and oppression, and then they wanted a king. They got a king, and then that king was overthrown. And then for hundreds and hundreds of years, they went in and out of captivity. The Assyrian Empire was conquering them, and they found themselves in oppression again. And so they went like 600 years without a lot of hope. And then the high priest Zechariah, whose wife had just found out she was going to have a baby, and she also found out that her cousin named Mary was also going to have a baby, Zechariah encountered God in a very personal and private conversation. And after that conversation, as recorded in the Gospel of Luke, he shares these words. First, about his son, who was known as John the Baptist. And you, my child, prophet of the highest, you will go ahead of the master to prepare his ways. You will present the offer of salvation to his people so that they may find their way of love, their way of hope. Through the heartfelt mercies of our God, God's sunrise will break in upon us, shining on those in darkness, those sitting in the shadow of death. And then that one will show us the way, 1 foot at a time, down the path of peace. Have you ever seen the sunrise? Years ago, my family was at the Grand Canyon on vacation. Our children were young, probably like 4th and 6th grades, and they were none too excited about watching the sunrise. First of all, it was terribly cold. And secondly, in the Grand Canyon to see the sunrise, you had to get up really, really, really early. In fact, I wasn't really excited about it either. But that powerful moment, when looking out over the horizon, there's nothing. And then all of a sudden, you see this light. And the light keeps getting bigger and brighter, and then it is just there. For so many people, for so many years, that's what this story represents. That light that penetrates the darkness, and that light that brings hope and peace. So whatever you're holding on to tonight, grief, anger, pain, resentment, loneliness, fear. What if you let that light shine on that just enough that you can let it go and know that light brings us peace? At West, we try to be that light. We never really know how it's going to work out, and we try to be intentional about offering ourselves in that way. And if you're a part of West and have been a part of West in any way, you make that happen. If you're new to West tonight, we just want to sort of show you what happened this past fall. When the hurricane happened, we are a part of the Appalachian District of the United Methodist Church, so 1/3 of our churches were destroyed, absolutely wiped out and destroyed. So we started with other churches leading a Mills ministry in Avery County. And so for the past 3 months and on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, we will be feeding the people in Lower Avery County at 2 different sites. But we knew that we wanted to make that light very intentional in their lives. And honestly, there were times that we were frustrated and we're like, God, are you really calling us to do this? And then when we went to Old Fort, one of the other spaces that we had relationships with people and they needed help, I want to show you what happened. Take a look at this video. It is our goal to always be a missional organization. And so when the hurricane hit the western part of our state, we began conversations around how could we be intentional about making a difference in that community for the long run. Old Fort Elementary, a new school building that's been built recently, was completely flooded. All of the students have been displaced into 2 other elementary schools, and they are in need of some normalcy and the spirit of love and generosity this Christmas season. So what we are doing is we are doing a collaborative effort in Operation Santa Shop. I wanted you to see this while I talked about what we're doing right now. Back when the hurricane happened in September, we said that it's normal to want to help. It's also normal that when life gets back to normal, to forget. And so we said then that disaster response is a marathon, not a sprint. From the get-go, we said we would be helping long-term, and that's what happened yesterday. You made Christmas happen for a couple of hundred kids, and that is just amazing. Yesterday, as some of our elves were helping families, they heard stories like, people still don't have heat. Our life is all jolly and happy. They're still living it every single day. And this is a house right on Main Street. Their lives have been turned upside down, and we can't even fathom. I couldn't be more proud of what you've done. I'm watching how you've loved the people and given so selflessly. So thank you for being the church. If you're new to us, that's what we're about.
I am Megan Bartlett, and I am this year's Old Fort Elementary PTO president. And I'm already going to cry talking about it. This is nothing more than legit answered prayers. That is the only way I can describe it. We started out this year, we were going to do a great fall festival, and then we couldn't do it. And so, for obvious reasons, and we had talked about, we need to do a big Christmas. We need to do a big Christmas. And we just kept saying that in all of our PTO meetings, and I kept telling our board, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to be, where, who, what. And then y'all's email came through, and it was everything that we needed. And I can't thank y'all enough. It's only like 10:30, and we've had so many families come through, and just I feel like you can just see the stress relief off of their shoulders whenever they leave. And that was our goal. And so I can't thank y'all enough. I can't thank everyone that's here enough. It has been just a total God thing. And that's it. That's the only way I can describe it.
So we're from Richmond, Virginia, and we did not know anyone in the hardest hit communities. So we joined Facebook groups and we tried to connect to see if a toy drive from the Richmond area would be helpful. And the response was overwhelming. But one of the community members here in Old Fort reached out at just the perfect time. We connected, and it seemed like the right fit. Yeah. It was on our hearts to really help everyone down here in North Carolina that went through the hurricane, and it seemed like it was on the hearts of so many in Richmond.
Yeah. So we put the word out in Richmond, and they started stuff started showing up at the house. So we loaded up and came down here to help out.
We collected for about 21 days. The first 10 days brought in about 400 gifts. The last 10 days brought in like over 2,000 gifts. So it was hard, and everyone wanted to, rise to the occasion and meet the need, which was awesome.
Has this experience changed you? And if so, how?
It definitely has.
It has. There's a lot of good in the world, and everybody's willing to help everybody else.
Yeah. Makes your heart bigger. Makes you to appreciate the silver linings when there's disaster.
So West alone had collected with area partners over 2,000 toys. And on the Friday that some of the mission folks and I were going to go up the mountain to set up that one tiny space for Operation Santa Shop, that was the only building standing in Old Fort that was even able to be used for the public. I got a text from the PTO president, and she's like, hey, we have some more toys coming. And I'm like, okay, how many? Because we had a system, and we had tickets that the families were going to get, and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, I don't know, it's the back of a truck. Well, when we got there, the back of the truck was the back of a U-Haul. And for about this long, my inner Grinch came out, and I'm like, oh, what do you mean? How are we going to make this happen? And then I remembered, it's not about me, and it's not about our system. We'll pivot. When we were making the video, a little hesitant to show you a urinal at Christmas Eve service that felt honestly very inappropriate. And then I'm like, you know what? The gift of the light of the world that penetrates all darkness did not come in a pretty neat building. It came where the animals lived. And that light has changed the world. And our light can too. On the night that Christ was with his closest friends, he knew his time on earth was coming to an end. And so he wanted to give them one last lesson, one last gift. And he said, look, And he took what was their historical meal, the festival of the Passover, and he said, look, this is going to be new for you. I'm not going to be with you much longer, so pay attention. This is my body, which is broken for you and for all people. And every time you eat of this, I want you to do this, and I want you to remember me and give thanks. And so he broke the bread. And then he took the cup. And the cup had previously meant freedom from the slavery that they had been in for so long. And he said, today, I want us to ask God to forgive us of the times that we have missed living as people of light and life. And then I want us to give thanks to God. And then I want you to drink of this cup, and every time you do this, I want you to think of me. This is my blood poured out for you and for all, so that you might have light and life eternally. And then they broke bread together. We are a United Methodist Church. In the United Methodist Church, you don't have to be a part of the church, our church, any church. Communion is a gift, and all are welcome to come to the communion table. So after I pray in just a minute and our communion servers come down front, we invite you to come as you're led. We don't have ushers or anything, but we'll turn the lights up, and we just invite you to come and receive this gift. It's called grace. And as you receive this bread and this cup, may you know that it is the light that exists in you. And may we own that light. May we let go of the chains that hold us captive, the pain, the bitterness, the loneliness, the fear, and let that light shine within us so that the world may see. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, will you pour out your Spirit on this bread and on this cup? Make it be for us the very essence and presence of Christ, so that we on this Christmas may go be the light. God, forgive us of the times that we let our inner Grinch shine through. Let us let go of that Grinch. Let us embrace this and go be people of love and light. In Christ's holy name we pray. Amen. I invite those who are serving to come forward. So hopefully you received a candle as you walked in. Now we come to the end of our service where we turn on our light and we let it shine brightly as we sing our closing song, Silent Night, recognizing that it was not silent at all. The cries of that tiny baby pierced the darkness. And so now we come to this place that we can celebrate that piercing of the darkness carries on today. I invite you to stand and sing. So somehow between service 1 and service 2, I lost my candle. And I'm like, there's not any good symbolism in that, actually. And so a wonderful person ran and grabbed me a candle. You know, sometimes that's what life's going to be like. It's going to be hard to find that light within. So maybe you, in those difficult times that grief and loneliness and all those other feelings creep in, may you remember that the beauty of the Christmas message is that there is a light that we can always find because it abides within every single one of us, wherever you are in your journey. May you claim that light. And now on this Christmas Eve, may you go and let that light shine for all to see. Go in peace. Merry Christmas.